With Pokemon Pocket's newest expansion set to release this Wednesday, not only are we getting new Pokemon cards, but we're also getting a new mechanic. That's right, Pokemon Tools are coming to the game. So with this idea that we're going to be getting this new mechanic, let's go ahead and dive into the possibilities that may come with this set. And before we get into things, y'all, only about 6% of you who are watching are subscribed. So go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell button if you're enjoying the content, because we're trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the month. All right. With that out of the way, let's get into it. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and dig in. Like, one of these really cool ones is this focus band, as they call it. If the Pokemon focus band is attached to it, would be knocked out by your opponent's attack. Flip a coin. If heads, that Pokemon is not knocked out and its remaining HP becomes 10 instead, then discard the focus band. They cooked with this one, because like Focus Band in the game has a chance to save you, whereas like Focus Sash automatically does if it's like a one-hit KO. But so like this cooks, and this definitely fits, I feel like, seamlessly into it. You have the flip a coin effect. You have the chance to like kind of stay in the game and then get one more turn on the backswing. This cooks. This really cooks. And I think also, just a note too, the fact that Pokemon Tools, you're only allowed one per Pokemon, I think that's where the balance is. And then as we get into these, I think it's gonna be really hard to decide, like, let's say if all of them were in the game, which ones would you actually put into your deck, because they're going to be taking deck slots. So that's gonna be really interesting to see the cooks that comes up because of that. Up next, we have Eviolite. Now this one's kind of spicy, because it says if this Pokemon card is attached to as a basic Pokemon, any damage done to this Pokemon by attacks is reduced by 20 after applying weaknesses. So it's like, cool if I have like a Babymon, but like, you know, once you evolve it, stage 1, stage 2, then it's kind of like it's not really useful. So it's like your walls that are really good for this, so like your Judgeodons, your Kangaskhan's, maybe your Tauroses who can survive, that's up there. But the scary part here is your basic EX mons. And there's no distinction of saying it's not EX, so I wonder if Pocket would change that, because I'm imagining Mewtwo taking 20 less damage. I'm imagining the bulky Palkia EX now coming in, things like Moltres EX or Dialga EX that provide ramps to card, and now they get to survive longer. Like, this would be pretty good for those cards, so that way you can continue to build that up and get those energies as much as you need it. So cool, that woo. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I want to say this in the video. All right, up next we have weakness policy. This Pokemon this card is attached to has no weakness. I think this is really cool. We already have one Pokemon that doesn't have it, which is the Judgeodon right now currently. And so being able to take away a weakness feels like you have a lot more survivability. There's often times in which you queue up to a random match and it's just kind of like you want to play your deck, but you get card countered because you just got that random queue. And so being able to kind of help balance that with weakness policy feels pretty strong, and feels like a good tool to have. Didn't mean to make that pun there, but it does feel like a pretty good tool to have in the Pokemon game. Muscle Band here, the attacks of the Pokemon card is attached to do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. I think this is a really cool card. I think being able to do more damage is interesting, and again, you now have to decide if you're going to use this or if you're going to use another one. Do you not use this and you stick with using your Giovanni? Do you use your Giovanni and your Muscle Band together? I think that, like, you know, an insane combination is that is for fighting decks, because you have Lucario who gives you plus 20. If you have two of those, that's plus 40. This Muscle Band's another plus 20. The Giovanni is another plus 10. I feel like you can really do a lot here. So I wonder for this game or for Pocket, if they do plus 10 instead, but seeing how Lucario went plus 20, maybe they're not afraid to venture out into that. Speaking of the band, we have Choice Band here, which this card looks so dope. And so to have this kind of maybe different rarity for the Pokemon Tools actually would be pretty sweet. This is kind of like that gold card feel to it, and then you're gonna see some more of these cards down the line have some of that as options, and I think that's really nice. And so this one does the attacks of this Pokemon this card is attached to does 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So I think this really balances out with like the Eviolite. So if your opponent is sitting with basic EX and they have the Eviolite on, you have the Choice Band, you're actually doing plus 10 because it only reduces minus 20. This does plus 30, so you still have the advantage here with the Choice Band. So if they add in things that kind of like rock, paper, scissors kind of like deal, like rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper, paper beats rock, and like you have your options of like what beats what, similar to kind of like the weaknesses already. I think that's a really cool piece to have in there, so that way there are decisions to be made. And I like the fact that there's a card that specifically targets EX mons, but then that means your basics or like non-EX mons are kind of safe. So it's similar to like how Tauros only gets that 120 when in the face of EX mons instead of 40 when it's just normal. We got another band member here with Vitality. The attacks of this Pokemon is attached to do 10 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So this just allows you to do that. So I wonder if you're kind of like, if you're like all in on attack, you would have 2 of these, 2 of your muscle band and 2 of your choice band. That's 6 slots though, so like maybe you don't. I'm trying to see why I would run Vitality if not over muscle, because it's like plus 10 plus 20, but who knows, maybe having just more options always does better for you. If this is a deck that you're like really considering more aggro output kind of style, similar to how like, you know, in Blaine aggro, you have 2 Blaines and 2 Giovannis, so that way you're constantly doing that extra damage pressure, regardless if it's just 10 or plus 30. So, I like this. I like this a lot. Up next, we have the Air Balloon. Air Balloon is real nice as well. So this says the retreat cost of the Pokemon this card is attached to is 2-star less. That is nice. I think things that like help out with the retreat cost also makes the big bulky Pokemon more agile. And one of the best decks that people love to play is Pikachu. And why? Because you can constantly move between your bench and your active. Now, to remember though, you have to like really think about, do I use Air Balloon instead? Because once you put the Pokemon Tool, which is again, like we're getting a lot more decisions, and I just love talking about it because it's now I'm like, ooh, what do I do? But if I put Air Balloon on my Snorlax, then I can't put like the Eviolite on it. If I put my Air Balloon on my Blastoise, then I can't, like it's just so cool to be able to think of like what's going to help me now and what could help me like win the game longer term and like take the advantage for that. The XP Share has a really cool ability here. When your active Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, you may move 1 basic energy that was attached to that Pokemon to the Pokemon this card is attached to. I like this as well. I think something like this could do well for like Dragonite, for an example. Dragonite already does so much damage, so like it doesn't really need to do more. And what is one of your problems is that you're setting up your tanks to like outlast, so that way you can find your pieces for Dragonite. And so if the XP Share is on it, then if I put an energy that I will need later for Dragonite, then I can just do that. Or if I don't have my Dratini out right away, then the XP share will allow, you know, the Weezing or the Judgedon or whoever's up front to give that to me. And so then I really only need 3 energy instead of 4. That's good. That's good. We were trying to think of ways to like make Dragonite like feel usable, and I feel like something like this can go a long way. Lumberry. At the end of each turn, if the Pokemon this card is attached to is affected by any special conditions, it recovers from all of them and then discard this card. I like the fact that some of these are like a one-time use and some of these are like attachments. The berries feel really cool that it has that discard effect because that's kind of like how it plays out in the game. I like this one as well. Sleep, Paralyze, Poison. We might see Burn and Confusion as well, both of which are already like in the game tips. If you're like, Ben, where did those two come from? They're in the game tips, so like they're already coded in the game. We just kind of have to see them, and maybe this is the expansion that does that, especially if we get Pokemon Tools that helps us with our special conditions. Could be pretty cool. Could be pretty cool. We have the Citrus Berry here for some healing. Now this in grass decks, at the end of each turn, if this Pokemon this card is attached to has 3 or more damage counters on it, heal 30 damage from it and discard this card. I think off the top of my head, before we even get any more new cards, but the grass deck that mainly focuses on Executor EX, where you have 2 Execute, then you have 2 Executor EXs, and then you have a Celebi, and then you have a Mew, and then you have all the room for all of the supporters and all the cards. You have 2 Ericas, you have 2 Potions, you can have 2 Citrus Berries. Like, your frontline Executor is not going down, and then since it only needs that 1 energy, you can just build up without needing the Superior in the back. Like, what is this? That'd be so good. That would be so good. And I just realized I got so excited I didn't even read out the description, but this says at the end of each turn, if the Pokemon this card is attached to has 3 or more damage counters on it, heal 30 from it and discard this card. So 3 or more damage counters would just mean if it's taken 30 or more damage, then you just heal 30. So like it's set to just healing for 30, but it has to be triggered where they attack you, but they don't knock you out. So if you get knocked out, then the Citrus Berry just goes away. And then you have lefties. There's lefties, y'all. So leftovers at the end of the turn, if the Pokemon this card is attached to is in the active spot, heal 20 damage from it. I think you can really have a deck that just doesn't go down. Between having like that deck that we just talked about, you throw the Citrus Berries on it. After the Citrus Berries are done, you throw the leftovers on it. It'd be a real pain. It'd be a real pain. Maybe Venusaur Butterfree could be fun, but again, 2 stage 2s is really hard. But like I think Executor, if we get any of like these healing things in the game, could be pretty nice. Amulet Coin is pretty cool. It really turns cards into Meowth, and I kind of like how Meowth has the draw card function. The Amulet Coin that's on Meowth's head literally says if this is attached to your active Pokemon at the end of your turn, draw a card. This is nice. I think that we want ways to draw through the deck. I think this means that you're putting Amulet Coin on your tanks, so maybe this becomes too consistent and they might not roll it out right away. That's like essentially you're drawing 2 cards a lot of the times. We haven't seen what the new cards are yet, but like if we were in this meta, having Judgedon with Amulet Coin just sounds like it's gonna hurt. It sounds too consistent. So I don't know. I don't know if this is definitely one that like is a popular Pokemon tool, and I just don't know if Pokemon is ready for it with the size decks that it has. But it's a sweet card. Then the last one that I want to talk about is a Rescue Ward. I like this because of how the conditions are set, right? So the retreat cost of this Pokemon this card is attached to is 1 star less. If that Pokemon's remaining HP is 30 or less, it has no retreat cost. So it gives you already an X speed, like a permanent X speed for you, so that way you take away one, but then it's free based off of your health, and that kind of like that rescue board piece allows you to just kind of like do that switch out, so that way your opponent doesn't take the prize there. So attaching to that is pretty nice. Maybe you only get a one-time use out of it, but it still can be pretty helpful to have a no retreat cost is pretty helpful to balance around with that. So I like a lot. So let me know, what was your favorite Pokemon tool that we went through together? Are you excited for this new mechanic, and what kind of other mechanics would you like to see in the game? As always, if you enjoyed the content, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe and click that notification bell button so you do not miss out on a thing. Until the next one, y'all, peace.